Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the OutMarket.Pro podcast. I'm your host, Mark Stein. Everybody deserves the opportunity to age gracefully and independently. This is the mission behind Generations at Home, a dedicated and compassionate provider of in-home healthcare, or in-home care, to be more specific. To learn more about Generations at Home, I'm enthused to welcome owner Shaun Carroll. He's here today to talk more about his business and how Generations at Home uses integrity, compassion, and collaboration to uphold the dignity and care of all their clients. Welcome to the OutMarket.Pro podcast, Shaun.
Hey, thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about the origins of your business, maybe a little bit about your background and what brought you into it. It sounds like a franchise, so sort of let us know structure and nope, sounds like maybe not.
Yeah, no, we are not a franchise. We're a privately owned, Florida licensed home health agency. Generations at Home started back in 2013, and it actually started up in the headquarters was in Tarpon Springs, and then the previous owner, who we bought the company from, moved it down to downtown St. Petersburg. So we are licensed for personal care, homemaker companion type of services. And our headquarters is in downtown St. Pete, but we provide service in Pinellas and Pasco. And if you're familiar with home health, that's Region 5, those two counties. So
Okay.
we have clients and caregivers all over Pinellas and especially South Pasco. And yeah, my wife and I bought the company in August of 2022. And we were looking for several years for a home health agency to purchase. My background is in fire and emergency services. I've been in the fire department in Pinellas County for the past 20 years, and I am still active. I currently serve as a district chief. And my wife and I knew that we wanted to get into the healthcare space, and we started looking at home health because my wife's an RN, and so it kind of fit both of our backgrounds. Throughout my career in the fire department, I have seen good home health, good assisted living, and I have seen poor home health and poor assisted living. So we wanted to try to make sure we were providing good service, and we saw a need, and we looked for a company that was already established, already had caregivers and a lot of clients. So we looked for several years, and during the time that we were looking, we had the COVID-19 pandemic, and that kind of put pause on our search for an agency. But then once we kind of figured out what COVID was and how to deal with it, we found Generations at Home and worked a deal with the previous owner to take it over. And it's been going really well in the last year and a half.
Right. So, you know, we're doing this both for my Outmarket podcast and the Thrive Co-Living podcast. But the Thrive concept is based on addressing this epidemic of loneliness that
Sure.
preceded COVID and was made much worse from COVID. Maybe we could just start there and talk about what you see out there, especially with seniors, well, and people that have chronic uh, health issues. Um, Talk a little bit about that, what you see there.
Yes. A lot of people deal with loneliness issues, especially as they age. In Florida, we have a lot of folks that maybe moved down from another state, and a lot of their family members are still in another state, and they move to Florida to retire. And as they get older, if you don't have family close by, you don't have a lot of friends close by, it becomes an issue. So one of the services that we provide is that companionship, and having that human interaction, that human touch, really makes a big difference in people's lives.
Hmm. And Florida I'm also down here just for the viewers that are turning in new here. I'm also in Pinellas County, the northern part of the county, and I'm definitely aware of in Florida there is a feeling of transience. A lot of times people will come and go, your neighbors will come and go, and it's that way everywhere, but I think a little more so in Florida because people are more mobile. So talk about some of the issues that you see with your do you refer to them as patients or clients?
Clients.
Okay. Because you're not doing review the scope of services again and give us a little more detail in what each one involves.
Sure. So we don't do medical services. We don't start IVs and change bandages and give medications. Our employees are home health aides and CNAs, certified nursing assistants. So we provide personal care, which is bathing, dressing, assistance, ambulating, and we also do light meal preparation. We do light housekeeping. We do medication reminders, okay, but not giving medication, just reminding people to take their medications on time. And the companionship side is keeping them company, obviously companionship, and taking them to appointments, transportation, running errands, things like that. So we pick up with all the items that medical home care does not cover. When you talk medical home care, you may be having a nurse or a physical therapist come to the house for a 1 to 2 hour visit, to give a medication, to work on physical therapy, occupational therapy, things like that. Those typically aren't very long visits. Where we come in is if somebody needs, 4 hours of care, which is our minimum per visit, all the way up to 24-hour care. So we work with skilled home health quite a bit, where we're providing that personal care and companionship side, and they may be receiving skilled visits as well.
What's the average number of times per week and average and just ballpark? What's typical?
It all depends on what the client needs. We tailor our care plans to fit the clients and families' needs. So we have anywhere from, a client will get 4-hour visits 3 times a week, all the way up to 24/7 care.
And do you have clients in facilities where you come in and supplement what the facility does and home?
Yes, absolutely. We are in home and in the facility. Some facilities, they may have a staffing shortage, or they may not provide the amount of service that the client wants. And we frequently go into facilities and provide care.
So do you deal mostly with the families and set up the visits from them, or how often is it that the client themselves contacts you and sets up the visits?
That depends. So the payers that we work with, so we do private pay where people are paying out of their pocket for the home care. We also work with the VA. We provide a lot of care to veterans in the area, and we work with some managed care Medicaid providers. So it all depends, like the VA and the managed care side, they deal with the case manager. The case manager contacts us. We set it up with the client to go out to visit them and work with the client on what kind of schedule works best for them. And on the private pay side, we may be dealing directly with the client, but often we are dealing with the client's spouse or a child or some other family member.
And what percentage of your work is private pay compared to working through the VA and managed care, et cetera?
It's about an even split, 33, 33, and 33%. So we're pretty even right now on how our client classes are divided up.
Okay. And how many of your clients are seniors with age-appropriate health issues, and how many of them are medical patients at home, getting at-home care, PT, et cetera?
Over 95% of our clients are senior citizens. We do have some that are younger and maybe sustained an injury where they need the home care, but 95% are seniors.
Okay. Tell us some stories. Obviously protecting privacy,
Sure.
but tell us some stories about the services that you provide, the people that you provide it to. Let's not just talk statistics. Let's bring it home to people.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. We recently had a client that, well, the caregiver, this happens quite frequently, but this one kind of sticks out. The caregiver really went above and beyond for the client. They ran some extra errands for them that they didn't really have to do. And in this case, it made the person's life really, really much easier. And what we see is when we try to match our caregivers with the same clients, and so they have the same schedule. One caregiver may service, 3 to 5 clients, depending on the amount of hours and the amount of visits per week, and they become attached. And, once we find that groove, we are very much in the people matching business. So we want to find the right caregiver for the client. And because like when we started off this conversation about the loneliness component, it really does fill that void, and they become almost part of the family in a way, in a lot of cases, where they're really relied upon to get things done, especially in those cases where you have the family living out of the area. They really rely on us to kind of be their eyes and ears and to look out. Another thing that we did recently, October was Fire Prevention Month, and we made sure that all of our clients had a working smoke detector in their home. Kind of from my background in the fire department, most fire rescue agencies have the resources to provide people with smoke detectors if they don't have a working smoke detector. So we connected our clients that did not have a working smoke detector in our home with the right municipality, fire rescue agency, and got that done for them. So just a little something that we do that's, we try to go the extra mile for our clients any chance we can.
And matching personalities probably gets tricky. So you try to have the same people coming, and maybe a rotation of 2 if there's some scheduling conflicts, but
Right.
it sounds like you try to match people and keep the consistency there.
Absolutely.
Which makes a lot of sense. But I would imagine it's tricky matching the personalities of people.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It is the people matching business. And we always tell people, you may not like the first person that we send out. If that's the case, tell us, we will send you someone else. Again, it's the people matching business, and we want to make the client happy. So we want to know if it's not a good fit, we will keep sending you people until we find a good fit. Because when somebody comes into your home for a minimum of 4 hours, you want it to be a good fit. You want to gel with that person, and you want there to be a connection there. And it's needed 100%. You have to have a good connection.
Do you have any sort of profiling instrument that you use to get the personality type, maybe a personality indicator of the client, and then also the caregiver?
We don't do a personality test like a Myers-Briggs or anything like that with caregivers or clients, but when we do an assessment with a client, we do ask questions that would lead us to what would be a good match for a caregiver. but we don't use an official personality test. But in our assessment, we have these items we call them attributes. So we get attributes of the client, we get attributes of the caregiver, and we try to match them up.
Because if you've got a cranky client, then you really need an extremely patience of Job type of
Yes.
caregiver.
Yes.
I can see how it would be challenging, especially just with a brief intake interview.
Yeah, and where we get that information a lot of times is the follow-up. After the first visit, after the first week, after the first month, how did things go? Was there anything that you weren't happy with? Is there anything that we can do better? And we take pride in being an agency that addresses those issues and try to correct everything that we can to make the client happy.
I would imagine that the caregivers are a little more reticent to share openly, but do you do a sort of a debriefing with the caregiver after the first meeting too?
Yes, we're in frequent communication with our caregivers. Our director of operations handles all of that, and she makes sure things are going well, handles any issues, and moves people around if necessary.
How often is it that the person wants to go out? Take me to the grocery store, take me to Best Buy is probably not top on their list. That's more my speed with technology. But how often do people just want to get out and have somebody helping them do the grocery shopping and go to CVS and that sort of thing?
That's very common. And, especially the most common is probably walks and then dog walking. Again, back to the loneliness thing, a lot of seniors have a pet and they'll have a caregiver come over, and the caregiver and the client and the pet will go for a walk. And just getting outside, getting some vitamin D, getting some fresh air is very beneficial, and some exercise, of course. But
Hmm.
they go on outings very regular.
Okay. And having somebody to drive you.
Mhm.
I recently had a procedure where I couldn't drive for a week and a half to 2 weeks.
Sure.
And so a lot of these seniors probably are ill at ease driving and shouldn't be driving.
Yes.
Their families don't want them to drive. So just having that person to drive and to be a companion and, hey, look at this. This is cool. Uh,
Yeah.
just that sort of companionship.
Absolutely. And one thing that I didn't mention that we do is, you mentioned your procedure. If somebody that wouldn't normally need home care has a procedure where their mobility is going to be compromised for a short period of time, we can come in and assist until they recover, complete their rehab, physical therapy, and then we can end the relationship there once the client is back to moving around and driving and able to do all the things that they need to do.
Hmm. And that's significant. Even for relatively minor procedures, you'll have some restricted motion limitations, driving.
Sure.
Um, so I can see how it would be really helpful. You know, we're still experiencing generally uh, shortages of labor. And I would imagine that uh, that's especially acute with caregivers. Your caregivers are probably on the lower side of pay ranges, um, generally. So talk about the challenges that you're having in this environment where we're almost at full employment, where almost everybody who really wants to work can work. What sort of challenges are you having? And let's see, you just started, so you really don't have a lot of COVID experience. But
Right.
anyway,
We took
what's it look like
over.
today?
We took over in August of 2022, and we weren't past COVID, but we were past a lot of the labor shortage issues that was caused by COVID. The previous owner had a very tough time getting people in, and we have implemented some things. We've brought pay rates up. We have come up with some programs that allows the care partners, we refer to them as care partners, but they are caregivers, to have some upward mobility in the organization so they can complete some additional training, earn some additional certificates, and then they are compensated at a higher rate for those things. So we start people between $15 and $17 an hour. When I took over, there were still people, employees making $12.50 an hour. So we jumped that up quite a bit to try to bring some more people in and maintain, get some personnel with longer tenure and not have such high turnover. And then we implement other things, like we have some bonus programs and things like that. We have a pretty good referral program, so if we have a good caregiver, they want to refer a friend or family member, they're bonused for that.
Are your employees, are they employees? Are they contractors? What's the status of them?
All of our personnel are W-2 employees.
Okay.
So that is one thing that I would advise your listeners to really look at if you're in the market for home care. It's very hard to tell the difference between an agency that uses actual employees, what's called a nurse registry, which is basically just a staffing agency. And then some agencies use a combination of W-2 employees and 1099 contractors. With the 1099 contractors, what you have to watch out for is insurance coverage, because a 1099 contractor is supposed to carry their own liability insurance. And we see that oftentimes they do not. So with our W-2 employees, all our care partners are covered under our workers' compensation and our liability insurance.
Okay. Can they get health insurance through you at a certain point in time of their tenure?
We have some limited health benefits for our employees. We have dental and we have vision. We also have a program called WellCare where they can get some teledoc visits and they can do some online visits like that. Most of our caregivers are part-time. We have very few that are working over 30, 35 hours a week. A lot of them are part-time.
And a lot of seniors themselves probably that have some
Yes.
extra time and want to make some extra money.
We love to hire seniors. They know how to communicate with other seniors, obviously, and we have quite a few of those. We would definitely like to hire more. They are very good. They make very, very good caregivers.
Let's talk about technology a little bit, because I think we're going to be seeing some real changes
Sure.
in recently when I did a doctor's visit, and the first person you see is the tech who takes your vitals.
Mhm.
And this is more on the medical side, although I've got a question related to the non-medical side. But I was thinking, there's no reason that part can't be done at home. And if they do that part at home, then the regular consultations could be done remotely as well. I think we started to see some remote telehealth. I suspect that it sort of retreated a little bit since we're not in the middle of COVID anymore. But I would think that there's going to be more and more technology coming into the home, health-related technology coming into the home. And really, that could be an incentive to bring someone in that's not medical to assist the patient in
Sure.
hooking up the cuff, and you're going to get some medical issues there, some liability issues. But anyway, and then what I wanted to point towards is robotics. And I don't know how much you follow Tesla. I'm a huge Tesla fan, but they are making rapid progress on a humanoid robot that uh, the latest video on their dexterity was walking really well. They picked up an egg. I guess you have to call it they picked up an egg and manipulated it, did not crush the egg, or able to do manual tasks. And I think it's going to be tempting. My understanding is the price point is going to be $10,000 to $20,000 to purchase one. But boy, is that going to put a crimp in the personal interaction and connection, that human connection that people so desperately need. What are some of your thoughts about this? And do you keep your eye on the evolution of technology as it relates to your business?
We see a lot of it in the skilled home care, the medical home care side. The nurses coming out to the home, communicating directly with the doctor, taking vital signs, having those transferred automatically to the doctor. In our business, we really don't use technology. We use it as much as we can, but we're not doing those medical services. So there isn't really a need for us to implement any more technology than we're actually doing. We can't have our home health aides and CNAs communicating directly with the client's physician. But what we do is we do assist the client. Some have in-home monitoring systems. We can absolutely help them get hooked up, make sure they're doing it when their doctor wants them to do it at the appropriate time intervals. What's interesting with us is our system for our scheduling and our visit clock ins and clock outs is all digitalized now. Our care partners have an app on their phone. When they get to the client's home, they open it up, they clock in, and it does a geofence around their location. So they have to be within 100 feet of the person's home to clock in and clock out. And that also allows them to log all the activities of daily living, we call them, everything that they help the client with. They can put in all the notes and everything. We don't use any paper on our day-to-day visits anymore.
So back to the robot thing, can you see a place for robots in your services?
Potentially. I mean, one of the things that we do is housekeeping and meal preparation, so if there was a robot that could, do the cleaning, do the laundry, do things like that, that would potentially cut into some of the service that we provide. But as far as the human interaction, the human touch, I think we're a long ways away from people being comfortable with a robot changing their clothes for them or helping them go to the bathroom. And unless these robots are waterproof, certainly not giving them a bath or a shower.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows what's on the horizon in the 10, 20 years from now, but we'll see.
I could see, now that you're talking about it and how it might fit in, I could see how having someone there, a person there, and then having a robot there doing the housework and the cleaning and maybe the meal prep, they will be able to do it pretty soon. Then that probably would increase the job satisfaction of your workers to be able for them to do the more human stuff and human interaction, and especially with vacuuming and that sort of thing, not having to do that. I would imagine that's lower in their enjoyment scale.
Right. And those type of things we do once the client is taken care of and all their personal care needs are met, then we would try to make sure that we clean up the house, leave it looking good, and do those things kind of towards the end of our visit. But it really, again, it's kind of whatever the client wants. We have some clients that just need the companionship and they don't really need so much on the personal care side. So maybe the caregiver is playing cards with them, playing a game with them for a couple hours, and then spending a couple hours cleaning and doing laundry and making meals, things like that.
You said that your sensitivity to the need for this service started with your fire and EMS, EMT work. What are some of the things that you saw with obviously protecting the guilty?
Sure.
What are some of the things that you saw that perhaps could be informative to family members for them to just know? And I'm not talking about just extreme horror stories, but what is common out there that you encountered that sensitized you to the need for this?
One of the main ones is the caregivers not taking the time to learn the client's medical history and what the needs of the client are, what might be going on with them. So when we would receive a 911 call and go to either a home or a facility, the first thing that we want to do is get information, start our assessment, and figure out what might be going on with the patient. We refer on the fire side and the EMS side, we refer to people as patients. And oftentimes the caregivers don't have a clue. And that was very frustrating, trying to get information on somebody, talking to somebody that really should know, but they don't know. And then obviously over my 20-year fire career, I've seen cases of neglect, just outright elder abuse. And those definitely stuck with me. And one of the reasons that we got into this business was to make sure if we can have direct control over a company, that's not going to go on in our company. And God forbid, if it does, we're going to take care of it right away and make sure it doesn't happen again. So yeah, there is, especially in facilities, because the facility is a business clearly, and they want to be as efficient as possible. You might have a caregiver taking care of 20 people in their shift, so they're stretched very thin. Hence why oftentimes families and clients will have us there as well, because when we send you a caregiver, that's your caregiver for the amount of time that they're there, and they're not jumping from client to client to client. And so, yeah, we want to make sure that people are able to age with dignity and respect, and make sure that things like I mentioned that I've seen in my fire career don't happen.
I would imagine another thing that you saw frequently was the living conditions of some of the seniors.
Oh yeah.
Dirty houses, and I bet, uh, I don't know a more polite term than hoarder, but I bet there's a lot of that going on, and that sort of residue, no pun intended, but garbage and cats and that sort of thing, which there are resources that can help with that, and there are funding sources, Medicaid and all that, but those people typically don't get connected with those resources that could pay for your care. So
Sure. Yeah, and we've seen that quite a bit. That's where that communication with our care partners is so vital. What's the home like? What's it like when you're there? We've had to connect people with exterminators. We've connected people with moving companies. We've connected people with cleaning companies that can come in and do heavy cleaning. But you're right. If some people, as they're aging, they kind of stop caring about those things. And sometimes all it takes is someone to say, hey, could we help you get rid of some of this stuff? And they're like, oh yeah, sure, let's do it. And then we get their home cleaned up. It's more comfortable for them, and it's a lot less of a fire hazard.
and probably since a lot of these family members are out of the area, probably there are a lot of cases where this is going on and the family members don't know unless they're visiting fairly regularly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned that. You always, after a major holiday, we see a big influx in calls because people come down, they visit their mom or dad or aunt or uncle or whatever, and they say, oh, I didn't realize this was going on. We need to get them some help. And then that's where we come in.
Hmm. What are some of the things that we haven't talked about that that you either see, have become sensitized to the problem? Talk a little more about what you experience.
So another thing that makes us unique, and we just got this company off the ground. We started a partner company um, that is a Florida certified residential contractor, because one of the issues with people aging in place and not going into a facility is their homes are not set up for them to stay home. So what we're focused on the contracting side is bathroom remodels that we can pull the tub out, we can put a roll-in shower in there, or at least a shower with no step that has grab bars in it. We can widen doorways, we can construct wheelchair ramps, we can even do mother-in-law suites. We could do a room addition. Oftentimes people, maybe they don't want to put their parent into a facility, but their home isn't set up. So we could either add a room or do a second story and make it all accessible. And so we're trying to fill that niche. So we're very excited about that, to be able to offer that.
Be sure when we're talking, as we're ending up, that you give us that company name too, and contact information.
Yep.
That's really valuable, and it is so hard, as you know, it's so hard to get good home construction services. So to be able to offer that, and especially to this niche, because people in that situation are more vulnerable to getting ripped off by
Sure.
providers, and they're less able to do the negotiating um, and just contracting. How
Absolutely.
much funding is available through government agencies to do that sort of work? Wheelchair accessibility, is it Medicaid? Is it Medicare? Uh, who funds those sorts of things?
So for veterans, we're working through with several of our VA clients right now. There's a program called the HISA grant, HISA, which stands for Home Improvement and Structural Alterations. And veterans who are 50% or more service-connected disabled can receive up to $6,800 for home improvements. And those are things like I just mentioned, accessibility to the home, ramps, things like that. The most popular one, and a job that we're about to start right now, is the tear out of a tub and the installation of a ADA approved roll-in shower where there's grab bars installed already in it. There's a flip down seat. So even if somebody's not in a wheelchair, they could take a walker in there, they could sit down on the seat, move the walker out of the way. It's much, much safer than stepping over the edge of a tub on a slippery floor. So we're about to start that project within the next 30 days. And as far as Medicaid and Medicare, to be honest with you, I don't know. I believe that there are programs out there, but we're working with the VA right now, but with several of our clients.
Okay. What have we not talked about?
Um, you know, let's talk about care management, because that is something that we don't do. A lot of people don't really know what care management is. We have a company that we refer out that we're not a partner in or anything. But for those people who have their family member that maybe they live in Florida, they live in the area and they live out of state, a care manager can come in and handle things like making sure that the lawn company gets paid, making sure that doctor's appointments are scheduled, and then work with us to have a caregiver take the person to their doctor's appointment. So if some of these things are falling through the cracks with any of your listeners, then they may want to consider care management to kind of supplement, take some of the load off of them. And care managers charge anywhere between 50 to 150 an hour. Don't quote me directly on that, but that's to my knowledge, that's what they charge. And just depends on how much, they're having to do. But that's another service that's out there that can help seniors and their family members make this whole process a lot easier.
So that would be someone who would come in, do an initial assessment, and maybe work with the family and the client to
Yep.
see, okay, what do we need to get coordinated? Then they work on the front end to get all the pieces in place, and then they're probably out.
Yeah, no, actually the care manager, everything that you said is correct, except the care manager stays in regular contact with the person. Yeah, make sure, like I said, the bills are being paid, the lawn is being mowed, the house is being maintained, doctor's appointments are made, and there is a little bit of overlap with us because we do that too, as far as like the doctor's appointments and shopping and errands and things like that. But the care managers can do some of the things that we cannot do.
Okay. And are they only private contractors? Are there any government workers that do that, like case managers?
So yes, two-part answer. The care managers typically are private pay out of pocket. If you're on the Medicaid and VA side, then there is a case manager involved, and some of the things that we cannot do that they can help with, but it's also a government agency, nothing happens quickly. So I might be getting a little bit out of my depth here because we don't do care management, but the case managers that are involved with our clients can help with some things, but the care management that I'm referring to is going to be out of pocket.
Okay. All right. Well, if a client or a family member wants to get in touch with you, how best can they contact you? Give us the website, your phone, email, etc.
Our website is generationsathome.com. There's also a page on there that's dedicated to our home modification services, or they could call our office here in downtown St. Petersburg, 727-940-3414. And we'd be happy to answer any questions. We have a ton of information on our website. We have a blog that you can subscribe to, and there's a ton of different topics on there that people find helpful. They can also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram, Generations at Home.
Right. And what's your email address?
My email address is Shaun, SHAUN, at generationsathome.com.
Great. So I want to thank you for this podcast. I learned a lot, and because I think a lot of people really struggle unless they have done it and had a family member that needed extensive care, not intensive care, but extensive care. I think a lot of people are in the dark about this. Thanks to Shaun Carroll for joining me today on the OutMarket.Pro podcast. To learn more about Shaun and Generations at Home, please see the information down below in the show notes. All of his contact information, in addition to including the contracting service, is down below. You can also learn more about OutMarket.Pro by going to the website and our solutions for small business owners. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to get notice of our future episodes. We do about one a week and post it on our blog. So thanks for tuning in. Shaun, thanks again, and we'll see you all next time on the OutMarket.Pro podcast.